live. Good evening. This is HNN, your not even remotely close to around the clock Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes news, reactions, reviews, theory crafting, and more source. I am Celiac Sarah, one of your hosts, and as usual, I am joined by my host Pico Burrito. Pico, how are you?
I'm doing great. 3 weeks in a row. It's
Yeah.
almost like this is becoming like a full-time podcasting thing. So
It's something.
it's something.
Uh, it's not bad. We've had like a lot of news though.
We have it's been an exciting end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think we officially got the unofficial announcement from CG that they're going into full-on shutdown mode after today
Right.
with all of the updates that we got early in the month, where we typically get them to the end. But yeah, we're wrapping up 2022. That's right. That's what year it is, right? 2022.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man.
and a lot of exciting stuff. So
Yeah, so it's definitely headed into holiday season for them, which is fine. That's not the end of the world, I don't think. We all expect that.
so lots of stuff going on this week.
Yeah.
Some new stuff, some stuff we expected. Uh, that Treya Omicron was actually delivered after being released last week. So
Which I think is just so funny. Can I say that they're like, "Yeah, you're getting this Omicron," and then they didn't push that
yeah,
part of the patch and it's like, "Oh, anyway, that's fine." Yeah, so we have territory battles are actually live now.
they are live.
We've been playing them for I guess today is day 3,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Um, the Aphra event is in game. We got our kit.
It's there. It's we're about what 2 hours into the kit. She's or into the event. Not the easiest thing is the feedback right now.
Yeah,
So
which is kind of
uh,
scary.
bit of a struggle. So,
Yikes!
but
Yikes!
it looks like a great kit. We'll talk about that. But it looks like it's a ton of fun.
Right,
So
right. Which is good. Just I think we all kind of expected a Star Killer level of difficulty.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then they released the set 6 Datacron info today. They're just pumping everything out
Yep.
because set 6 won't start, I think, until the 26th. Because that's the next
Correct.
conquest. So, like, they're just pumping everything out before they go on their Christmas break. And then, obviously, the content update today pushed Aphra's event out and a couple characters farmable and all this fun stuff.
I like to think that last week we brought up that the Datacron stuff normally comes out like right before the next set or the next conquest launches,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to think that Meathead was listening to HNN on Thursday morning, as he does,
Yeah.
and went, oh no, I got to do that. And that's what actually accelerated this thing kind of moving forward. It was just kind of our gentle reminder to Meathead, because we know you listen, we know you're there.
Right. There's no need to save it for the end. We all know it's coming. We want to know what's coming out next. So, um, where do you want to start?
Do we want to start with do you know what? Why don't we want to go through headlines, and then we'll launch into maybe some territory battles? Is that the way to go after this?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So let's look at that. Did you read Aphra's kit?
Oh,
You
I've
did.
read it.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
fact, I I read it, and again, it's she is active live in my account and modded. So
Oh man.
I have her. Yes. I have a problem.
Oh man. You are ready to go. Okay.
I am ready.
Uh. Okay. So the first thing I noticed that I thought was interesting is that she summons a commando droid.
Yes. Yeah.
So I figured that was kind of fun. Um, okay, so I did read her kit. I kind of like glossed over it, and I was like, I think I understand this. There's a very good chance I don't understand what's happening, but
Well, and I think, and as we kind of talk through this, I think part of the challenge is the team that's going to surround her finished Like, are all the tools in game, or is there
Mm.
something else coming? And we'll kind of talk about where that sits. Um, you did get the joy of, I know a number of people have told me this is one of my best qualities, but when the kit dropped and we saw the synergy suggestions of BT1, Trip Zero, HK47, and IG88, I do believe you got a direct message that said, I'm pretty sure someone said that this is what was going to be the team. So I was very, very, kind of expecting to kind of see HK and IG88 as recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see some other characters there as well Tilo, actually, I heard on their podcast back in November, one of the characters, and we'll talk about that, which again I think it's going to be a great call out. So you want me to read?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
I feel like this is your baby.
So Doctor Aphra, she is a dark side support scoundrel leader.
Okay.
I was surprised. I was expecting her to have a droid tag as well, like Chupio. I thought that was how they were going to do that. But she's got a number of different cool things a part of her kit. I think the biggest piece that we'll hear about, she brings in the siphon mechanic from Slicker,
Yeah.
but only siphon for potency, and her kit is going to be based off of potency. So she's kind of very Tarkin-esque as to kind of how that runs along. So
Yeah, that's a great point.
so let's jump into this. So abilities, her basic destructive evacuation, because again, she is an archaeologist. Final text, deals special damage to target enemy. If they are a droid, stun them for 1 turn. On Aphra's turn, she gains 10% max protection, stacking to a maximum of 50%, and 2 siphon until the end of the encounter.
Like the number 2. Like
was the way that I read it, was like 2 stacks of siphon is the way that I read that to be. I believe the icon is the same as for Slicker, but I think in one of the questions they said it's just behind the scenes there's a mechanic that it's pulling the right piece, which probably we should all go check to make sure that she's not pulling mastery out right now, because that's one of those quirks that happens. So her first special, Dangerous Tech, which is a Zeta and has a cooldown of 3. The final text, inflict accuracy down for 2 turns on a target enemy. Dark side allies gain potency up for 2 turns and 10% turn meter. Dark side droid allies gain critical damage up, offense up for 2 turns, and recover 30% health and protection. Revive a random non-separatist dark side droid ally, BT1 and 000.
So 3 potential revives.
3 potential revives that come along with that. And again, very much all of the caveats around, don't bring General Grievous and his friends to this team. They don't play well.
Right.
We'll see that over and over through the whole thing.
So this is interesting too, because this is really also going to separate your droids in terms of separatist, non-separatist dark side for her, and non-separatist for Sortie.
Correct. Yeah. Sortie, I haven't sat down to take a look at what Sortie's going to look like moving forward, because I think that there's, especially with what Dash does on a Datacron by Datacron set kind of basis. So I still don't get that kit maybe a little bit. So now one of the great things about potency up as part of this is also her 2 droids, the murder droids. In fact, all of the dark side droids have a ton of debuffs associated with them, so it's just going to help land those debuffs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it still is part of this. At the start of battle, if there were no Galactic Legend allies and all allies are dark side droids, dark side scoundrels, Carsantan, or Darth Vader, summon a hacked commando droid. And on the Zeta, if the hacked commando droid is already present, inflict breach and target lock on an enemy for 2 turns, and call hacked commando droid to assist, dealing damage again as true damage with an additional damage equal to 20% of Aphra's potency.
So, okay, this is the first thing that I got confused with, but then I think I just cleared it up. So basically, the hacked commando droid is going to be there when the battle starts. She doesn't actually need to do this.
No, she
Oh,
needs to that. Well, let me. That's I haven't seen it in play, but in the last mission, and I won't go into the mission if folks want to see it, but you do get to use her, and you needed to bring the droid into the battle.
okay.
But I don't know if that's because the event kit didn't have the Zeta. But I read this as, yeah, I'll have to test that. What I actually, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you need to use this as your first ability because it's not a unique.
Right.
And there shouldn't be something that would trigger a special from happening at the start.
Right.
It would be different if this was on a unique as opposed to a special.
And I think that's where I'm getting confused because I was reading it as if it was a unique, and then I was like, well, then how do you get the droid back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it says battle, not encounter. But if it's her special, then I guess every time you use it, if the droid's not there, the droid will come back.
What I don't like about this ability, and in general I don't like this, are revive type mechanics that you use early in the fight.
Right.
There's a 3 droid revive that's part of this that you're going to use as your first ability, so it goes onto a cooldown, onto a 3-turn cooldown.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That sits behind it. So
okay, I think I understand why they worded it this way. Sorry, I just worked it out in my brain.
Yep.
Because I'm like, this is a really weird way to word things, to say at the start of battle, but it's not a unique. It's the caveat for no Galactic Legends, all allies.
Correct.
So you can't go into it and have like one light side, hope they die, and then use this. Yeah, because correct. All of your allies are... Okay, so...
Yep.
Glad we worked that out.
And there's been a bunch of messages about this. It's interesting, but... Kersantin is a dark side scoundrel, so I don't know why he's specifically called out uniquely, but there's some people that mentioned it, and frankly, they're really inconsistent with the kit with this as well on some of those cases. So
right,
that is special 1, special 2, and I think at the bottom the Commando Droid has a bunch of abilities underneath it. We'll get into those abilities, but think about it like the Geo Brute Alphas, right, or the Brute in that kit. So. Special 2, Rogue Archaeology. It is an Omnicron, and it has a cooldown of 4. Final text deals special damage to all enemies, increase their cooldowns by 1, and inflict doubt on them for 2 turns. Aphra siphons potency from target enemy, which can't be resisted. This ability can't be countered. That's really nice. Siphon potency, gain a percentage of potency equal to the unit's siphon until the end of the encounter, and the target loses that much potency. Stacking excludes raid bosses and Galactic Legends. And then while in 5v5 Grand Arena, so this is the Omnicron, deal bonus damage to target enemy based on 50% of Aphra's potency, inflict buff immunity, healing immunity, stagger on target enemy for 2 turns.
Yikes.
So AE damage to everybody, they can't counter, and in Grand Arena, she does a bunch of extra damage to the target and then just locks them up.
And you've increased their cooldowns.
And you've increased cooldowns by 1.
Like, that's nuts. I'm interested or curious if when she does this, do her stacks of siphon go away and she starts over, or does she just keep building them?
She keeps building them. I've seen nothing in the kit to imply that they go away.
Right.
The way I always look at anything that reduces cooldowns, my immediate question is, can I make her faster than Cat? And can I get it off on a Kenobi team? Like that's always the big question. So so that is her second special.
Man.
Now her leader. So again, here we get into the book. Suspended Doctorate. It is a Zeta and an Omnicron. Final text. At the start of battle, Doctor Aphra gains max health and max protection equal to 30% of her potency. And if BT1 or Trip 0 are an ally, she gains 50% turn meter for each. Dark side allies have 20% offense, dark side droids, Darth Vader and Carsan also have 20% max health. They clarified this in the questions.
Mm-hmm.
She gets 50% for BT1, 50% trip 0. So she starts at 100% turn meter.
Ooh.
At the start of a battle. And that is not on the Omicron. That is just so when they talk about these three are going to be stuck together,
yeah,
they are going to be stuck together for that reason. What's right there. So she's going first outside of like a Han or a Watt.
right. Yeah, because it doesn't matter how fast you are, she's already
Right.
at 100%.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Holy.
So now, whenever a dark side ally inflicts a debuff, they gain 5% offense for 1 turn, and Aphra gains 5 siphon until the end of the encounter.
Ooh.
If dark side ally is a droid, Darth Vader, or Kersantin, they instead gain 10% offense for 1 turn, and Aphra instead gains 10 siphon until the end of the encounter. Whenever Aphra, BT1, Trip 0, inflicted debuff, or are critically hit, they gain 10% turn meter. Now, all of the dark side droids you can use,
mm-hmm.
Vader and Kersantin, every ability that they have has at least 1 debuff on it.
And this is, like, I'm reading this as per debuff.
Yes. Now, it's I think where there was a caveat someplace, Vader's dots don't count as 2, they count as 1. So I think it's per instance of the debuff, but not stacks of the debuff. If I remember, and like
okay.
Actually, BT's got a bunch of them as well. I thought I saw that someplace. Well, maybe we'll figure out that I'm wrong there. So, but they're gonna get turn meter. I mean, they're gonna go. Whenever an enemy falls below 30% health, they are inflicted with expose and speed down for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resisted.
Mm-hmm.
While in 5v5 Grand Arena, Darkside Droid and Darkside Scoundrel allies have 50% critical avoidance and 30 speed. Aphra has 50% potency. Whenever a Darkside Droid or Darkside Scoundrel ally inflict a debuff on an enemy, they gain 10% turn meter, limit once per turn.
Ooh.
So this is the one where I think, the way I read this is because I don't know enough of the kits. Well, so take Carsantin in his I think his first special inflicts 2 debuffs on the target. You're only going to get 10% turn meter. It's only going to be 1 debuff per character. But if you have an AE, like in the case of burning on BT1,
right,
you potentially could get 50% turn meter after that. Man, that little guy's going to go. He's just going to go. Oh yeah, and then while enemies are debuffed, they have minus 20% tenacity.
So you're more likely to keep debuffing them.
Right. Right.
I'm curious, and I don't know if you know this. This is more like an order of operations question.
Yep.
Because you have her leadership, and then you have her Omicron that's on her leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So at the start of battle, she gains max health and max protection equal to 30% of her potency. Does that trigger before her Omicron comes in, where she has plus 50% potency, is my question.
So I believe so, because I've always thought that the way this worked is the base stat, it's based off of base character stats.
Mm-hmm.
And then really what she's getting is, it would be max health off of 30% of her potency, and then her potency would become 150% or whatever it is from that point moving forward. So and I'm sure if I'm wrong, we'll chat will correct us, because again, this is the best part of chat, is that you can say whatever you want and then they tell you no, you're an idiot.
Well, so I always look at, like,
yeah.
You know how on .gg you can like fall into the abilities and see how they're broken down in the order of operations and stuff, and I always get lost in it whenever I'm trying to figure something out, and I'm just curious, like, the steps that this would go through. I guess we could have just looked it up on .gg, but
and to put it in perspective, though, kind of where you're going to be sitting. So I modded my Aphra tonight before we jumped on,
mm-hmm.
and I've got her sitting at 150% before anything else. So she'll be at 200% Right. But so even if it's 30% of that value, it's 30% of 150, or so it's roughly she's getting 50% max health and protection.
Right.
On top of what's already there.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's just craziness.
Oh my goodness. Ugh.
And again, notice, or it said base 30 or plus 30 speed. She's got about a 174 base speed, so not too fast, but not slow. You add on some speed here and there, and she'll be kind of up there and going pretty quick. But again, she's going first.
I also feel like she's gonna gain, her and the team are gaining so much turn meter anyway, that I almost think speed might be a secondary concern.
Yeah, it's going to be potency.
Yeah, man,
it really is. So unique 1 droid savant, which is also an Omicron. I think this is the 3rd of 3.
Right.
Final text at the start of Aphra's turn: she, dark side droid, dark side scoundrel, Darth Vader, and Coruscant allies gain defense, offense, tenacity equal to 30% of Doctor Aphra's potency until the start of her next turn. So, yeah, hang on that for 1 second. Hack Commando Droid ally instead gains 60%. While she is active, if BT1 or 000 are allies, they have 20% potency and plus 20 speed. So there's a couple of things there. The first is, as her potency goes up from Siphon, their stats go up as well because it's on a turn-by-turn basis.
You're right. I just realized that it says at the start of her turn.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're going to be ramping.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're never going to let Kylo Ren happen with his ramping offense ever again. Right. We're just going to let this whole team ramp.
This is like a serious snowball effect.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And then she gives, in GAC, under the Omicron, she gives 50 speed to BT1 and 000 as well, because they're going to get 20 from this ability, 30 off of her leadership from that side.
Jeez. Okay. So they're going fast, too.
Yep. The first time a dark side droid ally falls below 50% health, they gain protection up for 40% for 2 turns. And then while in 5v5 Grand Arenas, the first time a non-separatist dark side droid or dark side scoundrel ally falls below 20% health, they gain damage immunity for 1 turn. Whenever a dark side droid is defeated, they inflict damage over time on all enemies for 2 turns. So all of that other fun stuff of TM gain and all those other pieces. Inflict an additional damage over time for 2 turns for each relic level that character has.
So if you have, let's just say relic 7.
Yep.
You inflict an additional 7 damage over times.
Correct.
To every single enemy.
Correct. And that is, so they inflict on all enemies. So that would be 8 dots on the entire field. And by the way, she can bring them right back with her revive.
Right. And then you get more dots.
Then you get more dots.
Oh my gosh.
And by the way, so think about that. You're essentially getting 80% turn meter per character, which means if they die, she's just going to take the next turn.
Right.
So immediately she gets to pop everybody back up. Man, you would better land an ability block on her is the way that it looks.
Yeah. Holy.
And then Aphra, non-separatist dark side droids, dark side scoundrels, and Gersantin are immune to ability blocking.
Ah, man. So it doesn't matter.
That's only in Grand Arena GAC with the Omicron on there. So now that's Aphra's kit. Her little hacked Commando Droid guy. And if you're not sure which one the Commando Droid is, he's the big bug-eyed guy from Light Side Territory Battles with the big saber that always seems just randomly you forget about him until they just murderalize someone. So basic enfilade, sure, we'll make that word up.
Yeah.
Deal physical damage to target enemy. All allies without offense up gain offense up for 2 turns.
Okay.
Special is Besiege. Cooldown 3. Deal physical damage to target enemy and call a random ally to assist. Special Lunging Strike. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict armor shred for the rest of the battle. This attack deals 20% more damage for each buff and debuff on the target enemy. Enemies defeated by this ability can't be revived. That is the light side territory battle, just murder ability.
Yeah.
And then unique summon. This unit scale with the summoner stats and all the things. You know, can only go if there's an ally slot available. Can't go into raids. Doesn't count on death. Escapes if there's no other combatants and can't be revived if the summon unit exists in the slot already.
Right.
So,
yeah, that is a lot. She sounds awesome. She does. So I was immediately thinking, you're talking about light side territory battles. I'm also thinking, light side territory battles on Tatooine. The modifier there is that every other turn, everyone gets dots, your side and their side. So they get dots.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would trigger the turn meter stuff, but like that's a debuff on them. You're gonna be debuffing them even more, and going even more, like giving them more dots than what they already have, basically from the modifier. I don't know, just thinking out loud. But yeah.
So the big question that I have on the kit, and so to me this feels like an offensive team. I just anytime you see stacking offense, I know there are people that will probably try and build it as defensive team, but to me this feels like just take something out that you shouldn't. The problem that I see in the kit right now is dark side droids. There is no available tank in any of the conditions with the exception of one character, Carson.
Yeah.
And there's some, and it's interesting, and I took a look at him today, and I was trying to break it down, and what's interesting is the way that his kit is written. It's very much written in this format of here's something he does, and then here's what happens if Hutt Cartel is there.
Right. Okay.
Here's something he does. This is the Hutt Cartel, and I wonder, in like some of these pieces, like his Omnicron in Grand Arena doesn't carry over onto this team, but I wonder if there's just not a way to build this that Gamorrean Guard stays with Jabba. Corsanton comes over and kind of acts as his tank because he's got some interesting things like on his basic he inflicts shock and he interacts with shock. Well, Trip Zero has shock on his basic as well, so there's some synergy that's there from that standpoint. There's some of his health up in some of the crit avoidance pieces that he gets from the Hutt Cartel piece does translate over into this kit from this side. The other interesting piece is, Vader loses his Datacron shortly. And, do you stick him back on a Lord Vader team, or does he come over here and just be another dot master as part of that team as well?
Right.
So
I was wondering that, like, do you really want to pull Vader from wherever you have him right now living?
Yeah. But there's a certain piece of me that says this is a trooper team that I just need one turn. Just give me one turn is all that I need, and I am never going to concede turns back to you for the entire time, and I'm just going to wipe you off the map to see what happens. So it will be interesting to see how this shakes out with everyone. So
yeah, I'm really interested in hearing what you're going to do with her.
So I do know that I had a bunch of Omnicron mats, and I dropped 3 on her. I dropped 1 on Trip Zero, and I didn't realize I was 6 short of going to BT1. So I'm gonna Omnicron up this entire team. Tonight when we get done, I'm gonna run her on Tatooine because that's where we're at in the middle, correct? In territory battles.
Yeah, we're in Tatooine.
Yep. So I'm going to run that with Carsanton, the droids, and I think it'll probably be IG-88, because he's got some health up. And frankly, he's the right relic level is the bigger piece right now. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see kind of where she shakes out. She looks like a lot of fun. Uh, Lots of damage is what I expect from this. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very interested in hearing this. So you've done the event, obviously. You have her
I have.
unlocked.
Yep. Yeah.
How was that?
So 5 waves.
Mm-hmm.
The first wave is Hondo. The second wave of the droids. Third wave is Sana. The fourth. I'm sorry, only 4 waves. The fourth wave is kind of a made up team. The last wave is fun. It's really fun. Without spoiling it, Vader gives you a command, and if you don't follow it, it's over. It's pretty cool. The Hondo mission was tough, and I think it's a little too much RNG.
Mm-hmm.
The droids wasn't that bad once kind of figured it out. The Sana mission, I had to bring her up to R7. I just couldn't get her to survive long enough. She was going there anyway, but I would just say for anyone who's kind of building up to Aphra to get there, the requirements are R5.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll probably need R7 to get through it. The good news is we need to relic all these characters anyway for territory battles, so it's probably not a bad way to go from that side as well. So
Right. You're gonna want to use them.
Yeah.
I mean, she has a ton of missions.
She does.
Not as many
And
as Jabba, but she does have quite a few. So
and keep in mind with BT that at the start of his first turn, he doubles his offense.
right.
So if you take him up to R7, I mean, it's basically you're getting double the value out of it at that point. So yeah.
That's nuts.
And yeah, Jeremiah Ortega actually said in there, and this is actually a great call out. Probe droid in territory battles with the Omega, because he blows up and comes back and blows up and comes back. So
Ooh.
I think that might be a really good one there as well. I just don't have relic material to do it right now.
I know. This is the downside. I'm like,
Yeah.
which we can get into my relic crunch later, but yeah, it's a lot.
So I'm excited. I think that they delivered on a really cool kit. I love that there's Carsant and synergy, because that was, for, again, and I've talked about this before, in the comics, it was kind of her hired muscle for a bit of it, and then she worked for Darth Vader, so they built in some of the Vader synergy. Tilo actually brought that up on their podcast back in November, and when he said it, I gasped. I had never considered, I gasped loud enough. I was raking leaves in the front yard that my neighbor actually asked me if I was okay. I'm like, no, I just heard something really cool on a podcast I was listening to. So, it's looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. So,
yeah. And she is the legacy event. We kind of discussed this the other day in our server, which means she's going to be there all the time. So it's not going to be like Grand Inquisitor that disappears and we don't know when he's coming back, because they're not following the cadence.
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about if you do want her, but you don't want to panic farm her or buy the shards or whatever you need. You can get her. And
the other thing I'll say though is, there's really kind of 3 things in front of everybody for farming right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Inquisitors, it's Jabba, and it's Aphra. And again, insert your galactic legend that's not Jabba as well.
Right.
I do think she's third on the list.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We'll probably see some videos, and all the videos that always come out are always super exciting when characters first come out. Push her down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Probably don't need her as part of it. I think Grand Inquisitor is above Jabba, because I think of the timing aspect, but Jabba is just such a great kit, and all the other benefits that come along with it. She would be third on the list.
Yeah, and really, there's 4 if you think about. People are also still going after profundity.
Yep, absolutely.
So, or whatever ship that you're going after, Executor, whichever capital ship it is, but I feel like there's always a ship there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. She sounds good. I'm definitely excited to get her at some point. I have no idea.
And I think she has a Relic 9 mission on Phase 6.
Does she?
So we're gonna see this team all the way up there eventually. Just Not anytime soon.
Yeah. I won't lie, I did like go through the map a little bit in terms of planning the missions out and figuring out the map and the path and all that kind of stuff. Um, and once I got to like phase 4, I was like, we're not getting past this for a while, so there's no point in me
Yeah.
going any further.
Yeah.
I can call it. So, yeah. Okay, so that's Aphra. They also released the Datacron Set 6 stuff today.
Yep.
Which I don't know how in detail we want to go into it. I kind of kept going back to it and then leaving and then going back to it and whatever. It is, so set 6 is going to start on the 26th. So that is the Monday after Christmas is when Conquest starts back up again. And that's when we'll be able to start. Yeah, that's when we'll be able to start doing all of the Datacron farming and stuff like that again. So this is Dark Side for droids, scoundrels, and
Question on that: Does it start the 26th, or is the 26th the off week?
No. Wait.
So next week's the 19th, and that's week 3, right?
Oh yeah, that might be the off. Yeah, but that's right. That's the off week.
But we'll get the.
Oh no.
They'll roll in to the stores that week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the 26th. Yeah, Conquest starts the 26th.
Oh, that's right, Conquest. I'm sorry, I was thinking of it in terms of Grand Arena. Excuse me.
No, but it is the Grand Arena off week. I was trying to remember.
But it's Conquest. You're right. Yep. Sorry.
No. I was trying to remember. It's also this is already happening. We're not even into doing this territory battle every time, and I'm already like, which territory battle was it supposed to be? Was it supposed to be light side or dark side this time? But yeah, it is off week of GAC.
Yep, you're right.
Conquest and territory battles live. So yeah. Anyway, man, I just melted my brain. But Droid, Scoundrel, and Inquisitorius is the factions, the level 5s, and then you've got a whole bunch of dark side characters at level 9. Nothing really crazy in terms of, I think, game-breaking stats. There's no dodge. There's no health steal.
Nope.
So
no armor either. This is all kind of these all, actually, as I'm kind of looking through the list, these are all mod primary stats.
Yeah, that's a good,
with the exception of speed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that was the feedback I think we got from the community over the past couple of months, is that they really liked the stat aspect of it.
Right.
And the character list is interesting. It kind of looks like a little bit of the who's who of what was released this year.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, I'm expecting more of this. Like,
yeah.
You've got, I mean, I don't know why Grand Inquisitor and Seventh Sister specifically are bolded out of the Inquisitors. Because the other two sets, it looks like it's the new characters bolded. Yeah.
So is this a typo, or is that really IG-86?
Oh. Let's go see if it is really IG. Let's see if it says IG-86 down here. It is IG-86 Sentinel Droid.
That's going to be another one of those like weird Night Sister ones that if you have it, it's just going to murder something.
So whenever he critically hits an enemy, gains damage immunity for 1 turn, which can't be copied, 25% turn meter, and blinds that enemy for 1 turn. If the enemy was target locked, they also gain protection up 100% for 2 turns, retribution, and speed up for 2 turns. That is a good level 9. But who has an R7 IG-86?
Well, I have one at R5, so...
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. It's an interesting list. I think this is what I think they went away from this in the last set. What I don't like about this is just look at the Inquisitors. You're only running at best 2 of these in 3v3,
Right.
but there's 5 of them. BT1, Trip Zero, and Aphra. You're only running one of those 3 at any point in time. You're never going to split those characters up. So
Right.
you've got on the droid side, you've got a 1 in 6 chance of getting the one that you want. But if the Aphra one turns out to be the best, a third of these are going to be wasted at that point.
Right.
So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Man, it's going to be interesting. I'm kind of looking forward to the fact that I'll be able to use the Inquisitorius Datacrons, since I do have them Relic 5, and I will have them Relic 7 when this rolls out, because I'll need them Relic 7 for Reva. I'm not going to lie, I am a little disappointed that it's another dark side set.
Yeah.
I know the argument, I'm just going to get this out there. I know the argument exists that, Scoundrels, for example, you could get a level 6 Scoundrel Datacron and use it with your light side Scoundrel team.
Yeah.
It will still trigger. They just won't get the level 3 bonus, and they'll get the stats. Yeah. And I get that. It's just that I would like some level 3 light side bonuses. Yeah. So.
The one that I saw that I think we're going to see some shenanigans with is at the start of the encounter, the weakest ally gains 20% turn meter for every, I assume, dark side ally. I just wonder if we're going to see like, I stripped all of my mods off of, so-and-so, so they got it, so they got the first turn, because does that change kind of anything that happens in the game that way to guarantee 100% turn meter?
Like paper zombie type stuff.
Yeah. But, having gotten all the way through these, I think in general, no dodge. That's the big thing that everyone kind of wants to hear at this point. So, and we'll see. Hopefully everyone has a lot of time off between Christmas and New Year's, so that they can actually digest all of these and kind of figure out where the best ones that we need to go. You need to get on your roster. So,
yeah. Hopefully, because it's going to be a lot. And oh no, it's not a new Conquest series. That's good.
Yep.
It'll be the last one, so we're still kind of on autopilot mode. We've figured out the feats and all that kind of stuff. So that is kind of nice that it's not a new Conquest, because I think that would be a lot to have a new Conquest. I mean, it's going to happen eventually when it will line up pattern-wise that we will have a new Conquest with a new set of Datacrons with territory battles happening.
Yeah.
So that is the downside. But, yeah, nothing too crazy, I don't think. What I do like is whenever we have multiple factions, it seems like they've been giving a lot of the bonuses across the factions. It's just whenever Scoundrels or whenever Droids, and then you have a lot of the same level 6 ones. It just depends on whether you roll Scoundrel or Droid or Inquisitorius. So I do like that.
These level 3 abilities, I think we're going to see a lot of people building up level 3s. I mean, there's the 20% turn meter one. Whenever an ally uses a basic ability, they gain speed up for 2 turns. Hello, troopers.
Yeah.
That's a nice little one right there. Honestly, the basic ability, critical chance up, critical damage, and offense up, that's going to be a nice one as well. Tank allies defeated, revive at 100%, reset cooldowns, and they gain a bonus turn. Again, so put that on C and watch those tanks that always seem to die right off the bat while he was there. Well, they're coming right back. So, I guess there is a health steal up, although it's not. Health steal up isn't nearly as bad as the other ones. So,
right.
But
they're It's interesting because it's evasion up, health steal up, and health up for 2 turns.
Yep.
So they're all very interesting.
It's an interesting one on for scoundrels. Whenever an enemy is defeated by blank ally, that enemy can't be revived. So you're basically giving execute to all of your scoundrels.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
It's gonna be an interesting set. Yeah, that is gonna be an interesting one for scoundrels. Man. So yeah, this will start in 2 weeks, 2-ish weeks.
2 weeks, yeah,
give or take, all of the farming. But they'll hit the store next week, so before Christmas.
They would hit on Friday the 23rd.
Yeah.
They should hit.
They'll hit the Datacron store, and then on the 26th we'll start Conquest. Yep. So we'll see how that is. Okay, and then the only other thing we got today, we got the January calendar, which is named Captain January.
Okay, sure. I didn't know we named calendars now, but all right.
We do if we're meathead.
So Kyle Katarn is login character?
Yeah.
That's a good login character.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then there's nothing really that stands out in terms of events.
Except it's wrong.
What's wrong? Sorry.
Because these are the January events. I'm sorry, I was looking at December and I was thinking, why was I not seeing the double dips? But yeah, this would be for January. So
yes, January, because they're on holiday mode. Yeah, nothing too crazy. And then there's just the content update that was pushed today. So Trip 0 and BT1 are farmable. They're both on dark side, they're both on regular energy farms, 2A and 2B of light or dark.
But they're low energy.
They're low energy
shards, which is nice.
Yeah.
So
it makes it considerably faster.
I did see some, I wouldn't say some complaints, I would say some hopeful suggestions that because they are so attached to each other, they should have been on the same node. That's I think it's a phenomenal Christmas wish, but I don't think we're going to actually see that delivered.
No.
By CG at all. So.
No, unfortunately. So, and then like you said earlier, Treya's Omicron was pushed in.
Yep.
And the interesting thing, I don't know if people caught this or not, updated Moff Gideon's leader to include its functionality for 3v3 galactic challenges.
Oh, galactic challenges.
If there's anything that... at first I read that and I was like, okay, Grand Arena, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, and then it was broken in Grand Arena.
Right, and now I'm like, no. Galactic challenges. 3v3 galactic challenges.
How is it somehow they're going to take 2 characters out of the fight on both sides, and it's still going to take longer to finish than the previous ones?
It really is. It really is, sadly. So nothing too crazy though. But yeah, nothing. I know we've seen a couple of weird things with territory battles so far, and I don't expect them to push any fixes while it's live.
Yeah.
So
nope.
I don't think that'll be the case. So I think we're pretty much good until territory battles is over in terms of fixes there, if there's anything to do, which there is.
And I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of like super random ones, like when a Jawa's on a dark side team in the middle section, protection was twice as high as what it should be, or just the weird corner cases. But I think for the most part, territory battles has kind of gone off without a hitch outside of fingers crossed we're halfway through, and the first 10 minutes when everyone went to go start filling platoons was a little rough, but
oh man, my brain melted then. I was like, this is because it for me, when I was looking at it, I'm like, I couldn't make the immediate switch that they were swapped, because not only were they swapped, they were in the backwards order.
Yeah.
So when you're looking, you're like, okay, top left Palpatine. You look top left, and you're like, there's no top left Palpatine.
Yeah.
So I immediately was like, all of this is wrong. Like, it's just completely wrong. But yeah, So that is great. So on that note, do we want to talk about territory battles a bit?
Yeah, let's talk about territory battles. I mean, it's not like it's a new exciting game mode that people are
No,
talking about.
no,
The people seem to be chatting.
it's not. It's not brand new at all.
No,
Um,
no.
yeah. So we are 3 days. So it's 3 days in, and we are in phase 2 on light side and dark side. And we're in phase 3. So planet wise, we're on Braca and Geonosis for light side and dark side, and we're on Tatooine, which is the Reva zone for phase 3.
Yep.
So we're decently in there in the mix, which is fun.
We're starting to see a little bit of difficulty. I mean, it's the first day was. I mean, it wasn't. We still had some challenges. Like I didn't understand what the fuzzy hair buff was over on the light side on Coruscant, so I never pushed it.
Right.
And lost a fight because I thought that was you don't want to push the button, and that was bad.
Well, so there is a bug with it where if you use it and it seems like if you use it and you pop Jedi Master Luke's ultimate,
I got burned by it.
That's what burns you. So I was in there and I was like, I can't pop his ultimate because I was using the ability. So I was like, I can't touch. So I did the whole thing without popping Jedi Master Luke's ultimate because I was terrified that I was going to get burned. So it's been okay.
Yeah.
Like there actually aren't that many bugs, which is good.
Yeah. I think the biggest. So part of I think the difficulty is people are trying to wrap their head around is how much of it is it tied to not filling platoons.
Right.
That's we did Mustafar on day 1 and day 2.
Yes.
And between day 1 and day 2, we finished the platoons. Day 2 was significantly easier. Mm-hmm. Not that it was tough, but I just thought it was a little bit easier from that side. But I don't know about you. I've been surprised at how easy the middle missions seem to be.
Yeah, I agree.
It seems like it's harder on the sides and it's easier in the middle. But where they're killing you in the middle is there's a lot of set characters that you kind of need to move things forward. So, but yeah, it's getting people to understand that platoons or operations or whatever we're supposed to call them are more important than actual combat missions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a it really stinks when you try to use the profundity without the outrider.
It also stinks when you try to use it without Millennium Falcon, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I think we both tried that and we're like, nope.
Yeah. We were joking before the show kicked off, and I used to love it when Sergi would get on and clearly had not read anything about like what was going on in the game and just tried things and it didn't work. And you're like, well, no, did you know ABC? Like, oh no, I didn't. Yeah, that was me for the past couple of days. Like I paid attention to none of the other teams that people are running. I'm like, oh well, this makes sense to me, and then just getting crushed on certain things. So
and so I think that's actually a really good thing to touch on because I've seen a lot of people say that they're just jumping in and they're not reading the modifiers and they're just going into it. And I've even seen comments of like, oh, it's not like a puzzle. It's just clearly you have to have a wide roster and like be able to do it. And I was like, well, it's not a puzzle in the sense of there being RNG and knowing how to manage the fight. It's a puzzle in terms of knowing what works where.
Yeah.
And so like the example that I gave was Jedi Knight Luke lead is not going to do you any good on Coruscant because you're going against clone commanders and their lovely little green locked buff is that they set everyone's speed to 150. So his leadership is going to be useless for you because they're there and you're screwed. His leadership is great in Braca phase 2.
Yeah.
I'm loving it for the Jedi mission. I'm like, this is fantastic. I can control the team. I've been using him with Jedi Master Luke underneath him instead of the opposite way. And it's fantastic. But that's a clear thing where you're not getting the clone commander there.
Yeah.
That buff's not going to be there, so it's going to work for that planet. And I mean, same thing where CLS is getting wrecked on light side, doing great in the mix zone.
Yep.
So it's these little like things that are kind of being shifted of what to do where and when.
And I think where and you mentioned this before we got on the air, is part of the challenge that people I think are running into is because, historically we've been given a view of kind of what characters we're going to run into, what enemy characters, but we're not figuring that out until we actually walk into the mission. So I think it was in Zone 2 mid, there's a case that one of the modifiers is like or it's a heal over time that people get, and when they have heal over time they have counter, and I took an AE heavy team in and just got brutalized because it was like, I basically turned my team into basics, because every time you use an AE ability they just turn around and just kind of mowed right through whatever target actually had that. So like some of it is, I heard Solo say this on Gambit earlier this week, and I agree with him that because they're static, we're very quickly going to get like the book of working built around these missions. But on the flip side of it, it's pretty time intensive right now, just based off of the sheer volume of missions. And I think that, having that book and just being able to go like, look, no, I know if I just bring in this team, I'm going to be able to kill it and just kind of get it done and get into the more complex pieces. I think people look forward to that as well. So
yeah, and that's the thing, is I think we're all kind of testing things and trying things out. It's the first run, so nothing is known, and that like even more in the sense of nothing being known is we don't even know the enemy kits. Like it's not like past territory battles where you could go into the info screen and read about Django and the Reek and all of the Nexu, and like you could read all the enemy stuff. We can't do that here, so we don't really know what's happening. I don't know if that's because there's so many different ones because of the paths being built out and how you're facing different enemies because you're on different planets. I think it would be great if they put that in a forum post that we could just access, because that would be really awesome information to have.
What I do like though is the missions are very thematically correct on the planet. Like, so I got to do the Mace Kit Fisto mission.
Okay.
And in phase 2, it's Sidious, because Mace and Kit went into that mission. So like I thought that was really cool, like seeing some of those things. I bugged out on the mission where Lord Vader's in the second half of that. I thought that was pretty cool. The Braca missions from, I don't even remember where Braca is, but it was very Purge centric, Purge trooper centric and kind of inquisitorious. So I thought that's been cool from that side. I can't tell you how much relic material I've burned this week just being able to try and just do missions. It's
it's a lot, and I think that's another thing to keep in mind is you want to relic your characters so that you can have teams to use, but you also want to be able to fill the platoons. So it is a lot, and you need to keep in mind too, like you can't go in undermanned. So if you have 4 characters at Relic 7 left over and 1 mission left to do in, say, the mix zone, you need that 5th character to be able to do that mission. So it's a little bit of that, like kind of fine. I've been planning out all of my combats before I even start so that I don't screw myself over, especially if you're in a guild that is staggering their preloads and you can do Relic 6 characters and Relic 7 characters on the same day and split them that way. I will say I do agree with you. It is time intensive. I don't know if it's because it's the first week and we're figuring out or what the deal is. I'm doing maybe half, 3/4 tops of the missions available because I don't have Jabba, I don't have Aphra, don't have Kira at Relics, I don't have Lando at Relics. So there are a lot of these locked missions. Couldn't do Geonosians today. that I just can't do, and it's still taking me about an hour.
And where that's gonna raise a problem is like I've just decided I'm not gonna do my conquest or my grand arena fights
Right.
on this round. I don't have the cycles. I don't. I love this game. I love this game enough that I'm going to sit down and talk to you for 2 hours about the game, but I need to not be in the game 2 hours a night. You know, there's other things that I want to do. So something's got to give, and you know, I think it's easier for me in this case because I'm okay walking away from Grand Arena. I understand that there are other players that are like, you know, whether you're on the cusp of maybe relegation or promotion, whether you're playing maybe in the high end of K1, where there's a feel that you need to kind of keep pushing on these things. I just, you know, this is where it's a conversation of kind of really what are the important things in life. And while this is a lot of fun, I think I'm thankful for the fact that I can actually kind of step back in some of those cases.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you're doing it because again, just trying to herd cats. And I think, part of it, I think we'll see it kind of level out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think 5 years of territory battles has kind of helped from a planning perspective, just kind of understanding what needs to happen. But
yeah, you're kind of just like, okay, we need to do this and go. I mean, the great thing is I'm using, I normally don't use a like planner that manipulates itself while we're in territory battles. I usually just go off of memory and I make the plan on paper kind of thing and then put it into action and then tweak it after the fact. But because I'm using an interactive spreadsheet, I can tweak it as we're going. So, you know, the Geonosius fleet, originally I put in that we'd probably get 25 people to complete it out of 50. And I'm like, today I was like, I'm just going to go and put a big fat 0 on that and just tweak our plan and see what happens because, you know, you're collecting real-time data. So it kind of is a little bit nicer that way so that you can tweak the plan and see if you can still meet what your original goal was. But yeah, it is. I will say everyone is surprisingly good with being herded. So it has been relatively smooth so far for us, knock on wood. Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm curious. I'm just curious how this is going to go moving forward, and I don't know about you, but like when you look at the map, I want to know what those bonus zones are.
Yeah.
Those empty spaces are like what, because this is something that I noticed. There really aren't a lot of Get 3 missions.
No, there's not. At least not in south of 4.
Right.
You know, I haven't looked a whole lot on the other side of it. I will, you know, as much as we told people not to do it, I immediately took a look at like, what do I need further on? Like there's a mission for R9 Phoenix. And I, you know, jokingly last week, like I'm taking Phoenix to R9. I don't care. It's my birthday. And it wasn't, it was just being stupid. But and then I sat down and looked at what it takes to get them there. And I immediately just got depressed. Like, how is this ever going to happen? It's like, don't look at that. I mean, I'm looking at it in the context of what did I do in the phase today? And can I just take that team into the next phase? And how many of those characters are ready to go into the next phase? And I'm prioritizing relics on that gap.
Right.
You know, it's can I find a team that's got 4 characters ready to go, and can I slide it in and maybe push the 5th character up so that I can do that mission from that side? But you know, the current state of relics are just not going to allow anyone
to push.
To push, even if the mats were available, there's just too many pieces that just aren't as part of that. So, yeah.
I'm really curious about the quantity of relic materials we'll get in the reward box because we know what's in it, we just don't know the quantity of stuff. So that would be, I think, really telling in terms of if it's going to help make the I don't want to call it like a relic gate, but like the relic crunch that we are all feeling right now.
Yeah.
if that will alleviate it a little bit. But there was a question that's actually on with territory battles that was asked earlier. So Depressed Wampa was asking, considering you guys are end game, what are you going to use your Get 3 on?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think for the time being, it's probably going to be Relic 8, Relic 9
That's what I'm thinking.
material.
Yeah.
I think the Omnicron is a trap.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's only one mat, which I shouldn't turn my nose up at, but it is only one mat, and it's really expensive.
Yes.
And I think I'm going to go farther with my roster by being able to build more Relic 8 characters, or even Relic 5 characters, or like the 5 to 7 gap. Like that is going to be huge to fill out. Yeah, I think that is more important. And then we'll see if they put a character in there or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect in that store.
With the low cap in that store, I mean, what I'm going to spend it on is I don't know, but I'm going to spend it because I'm never going to hit that cap.
Right.
Caps are the worst place to be, because anything past that is invaluable. So it's the character comes, so I'm going to pause for 1 second because I have a dog who's trying to go to sleep at the door behind me.
Okay, so while Pico handles that, Wayne, I see your question there about I'm just looking in chat, Pico. There's another question from Wayne Tech Gaming. Yeah. Would you say a dark side heavy roster should still balance with light side or go right into Jabba? They have Malik C, Star Killer, and Executor at the moment. So this would be your second Galactic Legend?
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I think to still go after Jabba just because of Smuggler's Run 2.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Jabba. I'm curious, like, if your guild is doing this territory battle. If they are, there is a Jabba mission in every phase.
Yeah.
So, and they're not special missions. They're just combats that he's locked into, which means that even if you're preloading a phase, because it's not a special mission, you can do it again the next day. So that's huge in terms of, like, I know platoons, operations, whatever. I'm going to call them platoons until I die, probably. I know that they are worth more than combat missions, but every combat wave that you can get is huge to help make your progress, right? 350 million GP, but not the most efficient. Okay. But, I mean, you're probably still doing this territory battle.
But, and I think, and again, I'm going to go back to the conversation you and Zareth had around Smuggler's Run 2, and keep in mind that when that event comes in, that is a big influx of relic material and high-end relic material. That is 60 calibration units, which is huge.
Yeah.
And it's 4 or 6 health mods as well. Like just the of all the things that happen in a week in Galaxy of Heroes, like that's the one that I'm looking forward to the most right now, because it's giving me a lot of things that I need. Calibrations, mod stuff, and actual mods to slice. Because that's energy. I mean, that directly represents energy across the game. So
well, and that's going to be huge, and also just for your roster in general. Like, good mods mean you can compete against higher rosters in GAC. You can get solid raid performance in territory battles when you're swapping mods, like all that kind of swap mods for conquest, territory, like whatever it is, like you want that mod material. So I would go that way. I will say as well, because I was heavily leaning to Lord Vader before Jabba, and then I flipped it because I went against all of the advice that I ever give anyone, which is don't pivot. And I pivoted. So the farm for Jabba, other than the marquees, like take the marquees out of it, the gear is the worst bit because he wants so many more carbs for his requirements. But now that they're accelerated, it is wild how quickly you pick them up. I have 1,200 carbs right now.
Yep.
Yeah. When you're looking at that, it's really the gear. He doesn't need a ton of high relic characters for his requirements versus like someone like Lord Vader needs way more signal data invested in his farm.
Yep.
So you want to look at that too, in my opinion.
There was also another question in here from
I
think it was Waddles. Are there any territory battle Omnicrons that are sticking out?
Mm-hmm. I have heard good things about Finn.
Okay.
I've also heard good things about Kyle Katarn.
Okay.
Both on Jedi and Mon Mothma with either or.
Okay.
I think those are the only two. I don't know if anyone's tried Rolo. I haven't seen any Rolo.
I have seen 2 people try it, and it did not do well.
Okay, so that is good to know.
But I think they were light side missions, and I think part of it is I think it was the days. I think it was the days mission that they tried it on, and I think that just kind of shut the team down because of that. And it doesn't have a cleanse.
Yeah.
So I tried Finn on day 1. And failed miserably because I didn't understand. The democracy debug or the democracy ability. So I screwed that up, and then I just haven't gone back to it yet, which I should. And I am running an Omni Kyle Katarn on Jedi Master Luke, but it's hard to tell the impact of that one. Where on Mon Mothma, it's really easy to see what it does.
Yeah.
Now, there are a couple people in Old Dirty Blasters that put the Gamorrean Guard one on, and they're happy with it. What I think that one might be a better Omnicron, because like where I'm going to try and break Coruscant off onto an Aphra team to see what happens there.
Right.
So I ran Jabba with just Gamorrean Guard today, and because he doesn't have a pre-taunt without the Omni, it got real dicey in there. Like, Boosh sitting in red for most of the fight. So
if you put his Omicron on,
I think it's the first time a character falls under 50%, he immediately taunts. And like they get a bunch of stuff back coming, like health and things coming back out of it. So, I've always viewed those as plugged holes in a roster, probably more than anything else. But I don't know about you. I haven't seen the same level of massive impact, I guess, of those Omnicrons as it did on light side territory battles.
Yeah. I think it's also trying to figure out what works where still.
Yeah.
Being halfway through the territory battle, we don't really know all of the data yet, unfortunately. But it is nice to know that there are Omicrons that people will have already applied that are curing over well. So that is reassuring. We have not heard anything about IPD's Omicron. I don't even know who has it, to be honest with you. I haven't heard much about Cassian's either.
I did, and I heard it was hot garbage if hot garbage was rolled in dog poop.
Oh no. I wonder if it was the wrong zone.
I don't know.
Ugh, yikes.
I know it's supposed to be a magma trooper that does more damage than magma trooper, but I think it was a magma trooper that doesn't do damage is what they got. So
yeah. And then platoons being more valuable. That is a factor. I will say, so for our plan that we're doing, because I know people are kind of also focusing on this, that platoons are worth more, which they are. The points for platoons are worth more. If based off what we can fill right now, because we're not, we're in a end game guild, but we're not being like, you have to relic this character for platoons by next territory battle. Like, that's ridiculous. Because you don't want to, I personally don't want to take away from farms, right? Like, there are more important things, and we can plug those platoons in slowly over time. The combat missions, though, being able to do the combat missions, as soon as I start plugging into my planner that we're not doing them, we start losing stars.
Yeah.
So, yes, platoons are worth more, but your combat waves, at least initially right now, especially while you're strategically preloading, they do matter.
Yeah.
Because, as soon as we start dropping waves and stuff, I'm like, oh, there goes a star. Because that was the thing for phase 1. We did 3 stars on the light side, so Coruscant and Corellia. We 3-starred both, so we got 6 stars, and we preloaded Mustafar, the dark side planet. We could have gotten 2 stars in Mustafar, and I was like, I made the call not to do it because I'm not going to intentionally drop a star now just to progress us further into the map when I know there is potential for us to drop a star because of combat waves later on. DCB fan. If you can't fill all the platoons, is it better to fill what you can or do combat? So this depends. I've had this conversation a couple of times. If you can fill the platoon fully, as in like the whole, like 1, 2, 3, whichever one you're looking at, you'll get the points for it. And if you can fill every 2, either gives you a bonus level or deactivates a bonus level, depending which one you're filling. If you are preloading zones and you're staggering them, so I'm going to use the example that we are using right now in our guild. So we have Braca, and we are 3-starring Braca right now for phase 3. And then for Tatooine and Geonosis, we are preloading them, so we're not starring them. We can fill 1 platoon on Geonosis and Tatooine, which is 11 million points each. We're not going to fill them today. We're going to wait and fill them in phase 4. Because what will happen is in phase 4 for us, we're going to 3-star both of those planets, hopefully, and preload Kashyyyk. But if I can, the math that I was doing in my planner, we were going to be short in the preload for the light side planet there, like 30 million points or something like that. It was still going to work out. It was going to make a star later on in like phase 6 hard to attain because of how that preload worked. By filling the platoons on day 4 instead of today, I can take the raw GP that we would have deployed to those zones to 3-star them and put them into the preload of light side. I see. Yeah. Right? And then when you keep staggering and you push forward that way, it all just trickles forward. And assuming the missions are somewhat okay for us, it makes that star easier to attain.
Yeah. And I would also think, though, as people talk about, is it platoons or is it combat, and why combat still matters, there's a lot of pressure on officers and players in these preload scenarios to not screw up.
Yeah.
So some of it is, it's don't completely discount combat missions and like, well, it doesn't matter if I go 0 for 2. No, because if you start pushing 2 for 2, that all of a sudden then that means, no, I can actually 3-star this node without preloading on a day in advance. And it just kind of lowers the overall anxiety level of everyone kind of involved, and it allows to kind of push forward that way. So
yeah, that's a really big thing, because like for us, we're like, okay, even this morning before the phase switched, I was like, I am groggy. I was half asleep. And I was like, we got to walk this up to the line for the preload. And I just said in our officer chat, I'm like, I'm half asleep. Somebody else needs to do this. Otherwise, we're going to wait like an hour for me to wake up, because I will mess it up. So, yeah.
My favorite thing of territory battle so far, and I will not share the name, but one of our members is off in Las Vegas having way more fun than the rest of us. And they asked if they could deploy early because they weren't sure they'd be able to do it when they were drinking later on in the night. And I'm like, that was like, we're gonna open up so they can drop it and then go do their thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's good. And I will say too, I know a lot of people were worried about the 24-hour phase going from 36 to 24. It seems okay so far. And I don't know if every guild can do this, but it has been helpful for us. We brought on another officer who does have territory battle experience. And he just happens to be in a different time zone from us. He's in the UK. And, when I'm asleep, he's awake. So it works out fairly nicely that way, which has made it significantly easier to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been zero help in planning for this over the past week. So yeah, all the credit to everyone else.
It is very interesting. And I was kind of like saying, we really need to get in and see this because we were just guessing what we could do based off of how many characters people had. So it is a lot more interesting now that we're actually in it to see what's happening.
And I think I guess the last point that I want to add in here is, well, we did not get like a beta run of territory battles because of the way the units came into Platoon, that Scythe is heavily needed and it's just not even available. Some of the Aphra characters are not there. This does feel a little bit like it's like a beta run. Not all the tools are in place. Not everything's there. I think it's going to be really different for a lot of people in January, kind of when it takes off and kind of everything's in place. And we kind of have the Platoon framework there, for the next couple of years as we push through this. So
that's a good point.
But it's been fun. I've been having a ton of fun with it. So
Mole made a really good point that because there's so many battles and the time investment, 36 hours would make it nicer in that regard, which I do agree with, sadly. But anything else you want to mention on territory battles?
Yes, I have one last thing I want to add.
Yes.
I just got this awesome Aphra, and she has a dedicated mission on phase 1. But I have to platoon BT1 and Trip 0. So I would love it if we could just get more of those. Like, I know we're not demanding anyone do this, but maybe we could demand for me.
Yeah, so that you don't have to.
Yeah, I'm going to, I'm going to use my content creator cred right now and just mandate that this needs to be in my rider contract, that someone else needs to take care of these for me. So
yeah, it is it is very, very demanding. And I always feel bad because you're like, I can do these. And I'm like, I know, I've already counted you in to do those. So yeah. It is a lot. So hopefully, I think, and this is what I've been remembering, and it helped a lot for me to go back and look at my notes that I kept from Lightside Geo. And knowing how we mapped that path, which was the first 3 phases of ships. We did the first 3 zones. We did the first 3 zones across the bottom, so we got to the cam mission, and we stayed in the first zone of middle. It was like a weird U, and that was it. That was all we did for a few months before we started pushing in a little bit more. And when I think about that, I'm like, that is like, there's half the map that we never explored.
Yeah.
Right off the bat there. And to know that that's the same thing that's happening here, I'm like, okay, this is exactly the same in that regard. So.
Yeah, and I think people are going to get decent reward we're going to assume that gear and all the other pieces are going to be nice coming out of that, but the get 1, 2s, and 3s, we're going to see, I think people are going to see equal, if not better, in the new piece. So people will be excited about it from that standpoint. And again, we get to go back at it in 2 weeks, which is kind of the exciting part.
Yeah, we can improve and see the improvement more over time. So that'll be good. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
I think we kind of discussed our bantha in the room, our negative points. So I feel like we can jump over into I Love You, I Know. which we also maybe kind of discussed.
Yeah.
But in case it wasn't clear, Pico, what have you been loving after 7 years of this game? Holy.
So, yeah.
Holy.
You know, I I think this is bordering on the longest that I've actually played kind of any kind of game like this for a while. And again, I love the characters coming in. I am again. I'll caution myself with I'm going to say this, and I know everyone thinks that I'm too maybe too kind to CG, but uh, I am constantly impressed by their way or their ability to change what we think is important to drive what their goal is of big, deep rosters.
Right.
The little shift around platoons being more valuable and relicking characters for the sake of relicking and still making combat missions successful. I've just been impressed with that change in territory battle. Like we hear a lot that they don't listen. That to me is a sign that they listen. Is the 7-year piece. The reality, Aphra and the droids are in the game. I love the character. They were a great comic book run. We'll see if it pans out the way that it wants, but I'm excited that I have her. I'm excited. It's a lot of red fire and explosions on the screen, and a lot of debuffs, and it's going to be a ton of fun. So,
yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm pretty excited for you. So, I'm excited to see what you do. Yeah, I mean, I think we know I'm just loving the territory battle right now. Yeah, it's just
you like it. Are you? Is that really what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely.
You're down.
Definitely like it. Yeah, I think that's about all. I mean, considering it's a brand new game mode, we're still learning. There have been like a few bugs that we've caught on to and whatever. It's not as buggy as it could have been, so to speak. At least yet. We don't know what's coming. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of it plays out. But I'm excited. I think I'm more excited to see what happens with teams being used where and like how successful they are and the improvement. And I don't know about you, but I've been doing my battles as like a baseline set, so I haven't been remodding.
Yeah. Same.
And I'm still able to go 1 out of 2 or 2 out of 2 with them. Some of them I'm like, okay, this team did not work at all. Like, bad idea. Like, wasn't even close. Even if you remodded it, it would probably still not work. So it's kind of nice to have that as a baseline. And then I'm like, okay, so this one went 1 out of 2, which means it has potential. So what can I tweak?
Yeah.
Which is good to know for future. So I'm definitely enjoying that.
Yeah. Knowing what teams have to be remodeled and what teams don't. And then also knowing that next week I'll be able to actually, or in 2 weeks, I'll be able to use the same team on that mission and kind of just get into a little bit more of a rhythm where things sit. It's been nice to kind of see that. So
yeah, exactly. I didn't see anything in Discord Corner in terms of questions, and I think we've hit all of the questions in chat already.
Yeah.
Okay, so DCB fan, I just saw one more. How has Echo Base also been updated to include the new territory battle? It is updated. Right now, you have to be a Patreon to have access to it. Just while everything is stabilizing. The creator behind Echo Base did say he is going to make it so that you don't have to be a Patreon, but it probably won't be available until like January. He's just trying to stabilize all the back end stuff. Yeah. So there is that. And then Hot Utils has been pushing out all of their new tools as well, which are working really nicely. I've been using both of theirs, and they're working nicely separately and together. So
I'm going to make a plug for both of them, folks. These are people that do this as side hustles. They're not their jobs. They do it on the side. And I know what infrastructure to run these applications cost, they're asking for Patreon not to make money out of their pocket. They're making for it to do things like run the server and actually pay for the service. So
Yeah.
if you want to use the tool, man, just throw them a couple of bucks.
Yeah, and like Echo
they do a
Base,
ton of work, and it's well worth it. So
Echo Base, you don't need to be a specific tier to get the access. The higher tier you are, it just means if you're like, say you're in an alliance, the higher tier you pay, you can have more guilds in your alliance have access. So like I just picked it was $3 a month, and I was like, that's fine. Like I have no problem giving you money, and I'll probably just continue it after the fact because I've used the tool tons. So, and he's doing so much work on such short notice. That's the other thing, is a lot of this data came out and CG put out the posts with the platoons and all that kind of stuff on such short notice for developers, I should say, that they were like scrambling to turn around these tools and things that we don't think about. I was talking to one of the Hot Utils guys, and he was saying, being able, something is as easy or as simple as being able to deploy your entire roster, not just light side, dark side, but also light side, dark side, and ships, completely turned around how they do things. So it just completely messes with their coding in the back end. But yeah, they're all hustling and getting the tools out as quickly as possible, which is very much appreciated. So, I don't think we need to look at the meta report because we haven't had a Profundi event again.
I don't think we have either.
So we can just skip that and go straight to Uncle Owen's moisture farm, where we can talk about what we are currently farming in-game, because everyone knows work comes before going to Tashi Station to pick up power converters. Whew. Pico. I don't know if I'm going to be surprised by what you're farming, but...
Yeah, I'm not farming anything right now. It's more, I need to sit down and figure out a relic plan and what I'm going to go after. It's relic material, but... I've got to start putting together a plan for R6 plus.
Right.
And R6 is not a place anyone should ever stop. R6 makes me want to throw up in my mouth when I see characters at R6, because that's just not, it shouldn't even be a number.
I know.
It should be 5 or 7, 8 and 9 down the line. But I've got to come up with a plan and kind of figure out what it is that I'm going to go after. I had a plan of what I wanted to do coming into the new year, and now it's thrown out the window is we've got to just start getting these characters, whether it's for missions, whether it's for platoons. And I got to figure out where it's at. I'm going to take the next couple of weeks at the end of the year, relax, get a plan together, and kind of launch into it in January. So,
yeah, I think that is fair. And I know I've been telling people, and I'm sure you're thinking about it in the same way, is I'm not going to relic a character for platoons and only focus on platoons. Like you still have to balance that with your actual teams that you're working on. So, yeah.
Right now with relics, it kind of feels like, I don't know how, if you do Christmas shopping this way, but it kind of feels like, hey, did we get the kids, teacher a $5 Starbucks gift card? Like, oh yeah, here's another $5. There's another relic level on someone. It feels like I'm just kind of end of year just throwing relics at people just to kind of get through everything. And I need to get back to a plan so that I can be a little bit more effective with this.
Yeah, it does feel that way. So I have been farming the Jabba requirements, and I've been doing really good. I think I mentioned this last week. My plan was to get them, because I wanted to hoard the gear for Grand Inquisitor and to get them to Relic 7 right away. I've been taking them all to Gear 13 initially as I work on them, and then I was going to worry about the relics after the Grand Inquisitor event. And then I didn't pivot. I paused in the sense of I need 103 Electriums to get an entire Relic 7 Inquisitor squad for the Riva mission by the time it rolls around at the end of December when Grand Inquisitor is back. So I have completely paused the gear farm in terms of what the Jabba requirements need, because I was realizing, I was like, I'm probably using this gear on them.
Yeah.
So I am farming gear that I can scrap at the scavenger for Electriums.
Yep.
And I said this yesterday to Zareth, and I was looking at those $10 Gear 12 packs, and I was like, do I buy one just so I can scrap it?
No. Look, I said no.
I know. I haven't done it. I should clarify, I haven't done it. But I need 103 Electriums. And I bought in Conquest, I normally buy the... Is it impulse detectors or whatever one those are? I normally buy those, and I was like, nope, I need Electriums.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was it's been eye-opening, but it's not too bad. So I need 103 Electriums, and I need like 16 Zinbiddles or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad in that regard. But yeah, the Hondo farm. So Hondo went farmable last week, correct?
Correct.
So in a week, I started farming him either the day he dropped or the day after. It was one of those two. He was at 3 stars, like didn't buy any shards in the store, no calendars, just so everyone's aware. 3 refreshes a day. I need 12 Hondo shards. That is how fast it was to farm him.
Did they accidentally make him accelerated and they didn't realize it?
It was so fast, guys. Like, it is insane how fast it was to farm him.
And he's Cantina?
He's Cantina.
Like, he's Cantina? Okay.
I think he's 8 energy.
Oh, jeez.
It is dirty how fast it is. It's been a week and I need to... Like, I haven't done my Cantina refreshes today. I'm going to do them after. And I'm assuming I'll be done today.
So, if you find a use for Hondo, could you please tell me?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to use him yet. I just want him farmed. I just want it out of the way and done. And then I can go back to Signal Data.
So... Did you ever watch South Park?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah.
So there was an episode way back in the day that the idea of underwear gnomes, and the underwear gnomes had a 3-step plan for making profit, which is it's actually relevant in this case. Mm-hmm. So step 1 was steal underwear. Step 3 was profit.
Yeah.
They never talked about what step 2 was.
Yeah.
So this is Hondo. Like, Hondo's a plug and play character.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Where do I plug him into? Hondo's a plug and play character. No one ever says where he plugs in at. That's what I just can't seem to wrap my head around with him. So sorry for the segue on that.
No, it's I'm curious, and I'm like, I just need him farmed. I need him out of the way, and then I can focus on other farms afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, I was like, and I know he's 8 energy, so that speeds it up, but I'm still pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Something done. I mean, that's kind of one of the nice things about it, is that it's something that's done. So
yeah. So anyway, that is really exciting. I think at least it's out of the way, it's done, and then once I get those 103 Electriums, I can go back to my Jabba requirements. I will say, so far for the Reva mission, it looks like you can intersperse who your 5th is.
Okay.
I've seen runs with Second Sister. I've seen runs with 7th. I've seen runs with 8th brother, like just who they decide to plug and play to put in. And it looks like it's working. I am not going to try to jinx this or put it out there. I still think the mission is bugged. So whether or not that holds true the next time it rolls around will remain to be seen.
I run it tomorrow, and I will likely leave 8th on the bench, only because I always leave 8th on the bench, and I just understand the other kids.
Right.
Like, it's more familiarity than anything else. But
I honestly think familiarity with kits is going to be really important here.
Yep.
Just because you're taking in the modifiers into account as well.
Yeah.
So, Lion's Den. Is there certain no to farm GL tickets, or does it really not matter? No.
Nope.
Just make sure you're doing because I've seen people do this before, and they're just spaced on it. Make sure you're doing the alignment with whatever GL you are. So if it's a dark side, do dark side. Don't accidentally farm light side and be like, why aren't they dropping? Because they won't. I personally have always farmed the gear that I need for the Galactic Legend when I'm farming the tickets. That way I have it ready to go. So, but I know people farm Kairos. I know people farm stuff to scrap at the scavenger. As long as you do the dark or light, whichever one it is, you're set. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, I don't.
Man.
I think we probably should have talked about this ahead of time. This may be our last episode until 2023.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing after the Christmas break that week yet. So we'll see. We may have one. I mean, we'll post on the Discord server what's happening.
One of us may be drinking a lot that week, and one of us will not be. I can tell. I hope not.
It's not going to be me. Definitely am not drinking. Sadly. Yeah. So we'll see.
So we may be. It may not be until January, but we'll circle back on where that is. So
yeah. So if you're not in the server, you can hop in there.
Yep.
And then in January is when we're going to kick off the H&N for good.
Yes. Just a brief update on that. Everything is kind of up and running. It's on the Discord server. We actually, again, greatly thankful. We've got some donations that are rolling in. We're going to roll this in next month with the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to roll everything over that people donated in December. We'll roll that into January. And then as we get to the end of the month, we will make that awesome donation there, and we will decide on where our next charity is going to be moving into February. So
yeah, and if you want to have feedback on the next charity or anything like that, it's all going to happen in the server.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Probably need to start moving that up to the top of the podcast. I was thinking about that as we were going through the show. Like, we might want to start doing an update to the top, but
good point.
We'll figure out where that needs to sit. So
good point. All right. I think that's it then.
That's it?
That's it. We're out of things to talk about. Maybe.
3 weeks in a row. That's a lot to talk about.
It is. It is a lot. All right, guys. So thank you very much for joining. If you were on the stream, listening on the podcast, whichever one you chose. And that ought to do it. Until next time, Chewie, we are home.